So we're gonna go down the line and start making these little boxes. And then the way this works is I wrote here more or less kind of like the name of what we're going to be doing. So you can follow along and do exactly what I'm doing, or you can just watch and do it later. But the first thing you'll notice is I'm trying to orbit right here, and see how like it's orbiting around some weird point out in space. I'm going to select this stuff here and use that little zoom selected, or you can get in the habit of typing in ZS, which I think it knows is zoom selected. So now when I orbit, you'll see it always orbits right around there. And if you are watching this like in a year and you want this file, just I guess email me and I'll send it to you again. Because I'm gonna post all of these on the channel so that way you guys can watch them. And so, but this is one of the ones that I always get asked about. So we're gonna make a box in as many ways as we can, and then you'll see I've done like an example here, and then we're gonna kind of recreate this. So this box, you can make the most simple way is using what are called primitives, which are like the basic geometries that Rhino already gives you, kind of like standard. Think of it as like blocks that like little kids would play with. So like if you just click the box, you can just do this. So you click there, and it says click the other corner of base or length. So we can click here, and then we can click there. And there you go, we made that box. So just like that one, we have this one. So you can also type in, I think this one, I typed in the word box, and then first corner is pretty much the same thing, and you end up with a box. Another way we can do the same thing, in this one, you start off with a plane. And then the reason I'm showing you this is because right now it's pretty like obvious. Like you're like, okay, we have a box, like that's great. But once you start creating like more and more complex geometry, it starts becoming like you take things for granted when you model simple like this, because you can just grab the corner and move it over. But once you start having these like doubly curved surfaces, or like super panelized shapes where there's like 50 different directions like the same wall needs to be moved in, then you start realizing, man, like how would I be able to just create this shape? And like the more ways you understand how to make that base geometry, the better it becomes for you later once we start, especially when you're getting into Grasshopper and you're actually having to tell Rhino every step of the way, not just like click and click and click. It really gives you more tools at your disposal to be able to do that. So here, if you have a plane, we can get this shape almost just like you would in SketchUp. So if you type in extrude, so see it's defaulting to curve, but I'm going to type in extrude surface or extrude surf, and then it says select surface to extrude as this guy. You hit enter, and then it will bring it up to here. And so notice it didn't fill it in. So when I look from the top, it's like hollow. So let's see how we can fix that. So if I repeat the command, oh, I can't because I did delete. So let's do extrude surface, select the surface, it's that one, enter. And then as I'm going up, before I click, notice there's like all these different tools. So these are all like options that you can use to change the command before you've even completed it. So the first one is direction, the second one is both sides, the next one is solid, no, delete input node, to boundaries, split at tangents, or set base point. So right now the default is set to wherever you clicked, it's going to extrude it upwards to wherever you click again. And since it's set to solid no, it's just making like an empty shape. But if you click right on there and say solid, it becomes yes, and then now when I click here, it became solid. So that can help save you a step sometimes, especially if you're doing like, right now I only had one, but imagine you did like 40 shapes at once and you extruded all of them. It would be a lot nicer sometimes if it just does it as a solid. And sometimes you don't want solids, you just need that edge. And in that case, you switch it to not solid. So that one's really like key. This one is a polyline, and then you extrude it with a cap. So we're going to draw a shape like this, which you could use that one, or we can delete it and draw a new one. So if you look, this is a polyline. These ones are called control curves. So we want to use this one where it's just a straight line. So this is no different than like an AutoCAD polyline. So you can click around these points. And if it's not snapping, make sure you have your object snap on, and then you have these checked. Be careful with how many of these you turn on, because especially the one called near, I almost never use that one, because near, it just snaps to everything like possible in the world, and like it's just like as you move your mouse, it's like going all over the place, and like the one you want, it doesn't choose, and it goes like crazy. But it's an option, I guess. And then now we're going to do extrude, and instead of a surface, we're going to do a curve, because we have a curve. So if you try and extrude surface, but you're trying to tell it to extrude a curve, it won't know what to do. So there's a different version of that same exact command that is going to extrude it if you have a curve. So we're going to use extrude curve. You click there, you hit enter because that's the one we wanted, and then you can go here and see right now we didn't set it to solid, which we could have. And then the other way we could do it is once it's done like that, if you have a nice and clean shape like that, that's the opening. So let me zoom here. You can use a command called cap. So cap, it's going to look for, and the only caveat with cap is it has to be a nice clean edge. If it's like a curved or a warped edge that you're trying to cap off, it won't work, it'll fail. But if it's a nice straight edge, it works every time. So the cool thing with that is if you have a weird shape, you just need to take an object and then trim it off at like a nice straight. It doesn't have to be perpendicular, it could be angled, it could be like really sharp, as long as it's totally flat, and it can just draw a perfectly flat plane on there. And then once you select it, you click on it, you hit enter, and then it will cap it. So see, now it's a closed poly surface, whereas before it was open. So that's what happens when you cap it. On the flip side, we could do, so this one is surface point. So rather than making that outer line, we can do this, and you can use that one, which is surface from 2 or 3 corner points. So that's this one right here. If you click there and you click here, you'll notice once you click a third time, you start getting that little triangle. And then you could click like 100 times to make a really complicated shape with this tool. And then once you have it, it makes that, and then now we can extrude the surface. So you got that one. Or you could just build it up all the way using that tool. So we can grab this guy, click here, and this one is really important because it shows you how useful all 4 cameras can be. Without these, you end up getting, so let me pick this guy so that we go here. One thing that's really cool about the 4 views is as you're drawing, you can see the point it's about to snap to. So see here, I can tell sometimes you end up in this situation where you've got 2 points in the perspective view that are perfectly aligned, think like a solar eclipse, and in your view it looks like you're grabbing the front one. But in Rhino's mind, you've told it to grab the back one. And it just will sometimes grab a weird point. And it could look perfectly fine in one angle, but when you look at the other views, you start realizing that it's actually snapping to a weird point back there. See here, it's grabbing the center point of that face for no reason at all, because I'm right next to that point. But here you would obviously be able to tell that something's wrong, because that shape went like way off to one side. And there, in my perspective camera, it looks good, But over here you can tell something's wrong because it's going off at this crazy angle right here. So then you want to orbit, make sure, like the trick I always use is orbit your perspective camera so that there's like nothing behind that except like empty space, like into like the beyond. And then that way there's only one possible choice for Rhino to pick that one. And then you can get there. And see, I ended up crisscrossing, so it's going to give me this weird shape. So that happened because I went in the wrong order when I went to the top one. So you'll see this happen a lot, especially when we start doing some of the other commands. The order in which you click is really important. So once you start drawing something, don't switch it up. So here, that's that guy and this guy. And then you can repeat that. Spacebar is also works as enter, just like it does in CAD.
I think there's also a way to set your settings to where if you select a point, it'll show a dialog box of every point within your click.
Yeah. So that also happens like this, where if you click and there's more than one option there, it will pop up with this selection menu. And I see this happen a lot, especially with people who are like new to Rhino. They'll click something and then they'll go no, and they say none, and they click again, and then it pops up and they say no, and they click again and they say no, and they're like, why can't I click this? And it's because what Rhino's telling you is that where you clicked, there's more than one option. So it wants you to tell it which one. So as you move your mouse, it will highlight the ones until you see the one. So let's say I wanted that face. Then you click on that, and it gives you that selection. So if that little window pops up, don't just ignore it and just close it out, because it's telling you something. So that's a really good one. And then this one, so this one's pretty cool. So we have a line, and then we're going to extrude with direction. So here I'm going to do two at once. So I'm going to grab both of these and type in Extrude Curve. And I'm going to go up. And then how can I get that way with the same line? So here I have the curve. If we type in the same command, see, it just wants to go vertical. So if you change right here and you click on direction, direction will ask for a base point, and you're basically resetting the direction for the extrude. So right now the default is to go in the vertical direction or the Z direction. So we want to click here, then we click here to tell it we want to go horizontally. And once you do that, see, now it's going to go that way. And then you can do the same thing up here if you want to draw a line there, or like once you've done that one, you can complete this whole box like that. So let's just draw a curve. Let me see if it'll grab it if I pick here. Yeah. So you don't have to have a curve on its own. If it's part of a surface like that, you can grab it and then extrude it like that. And here we can do the same thing, grab that one. And now on this case, it wants to go vertical again. So we need to do it like we just did. So you click direction, you click the base point that you want to move from there to here. And now it's going in this direction, so we can click there. So now we start getting into the more fun ones. So this one we're going to have two P lines, and then we're going to loft it and then cap the loft. So have you guys used loft before? Some of you guys never used that. So what a loft does, think of it as like you're taking one shape and you're connecting a tunnel from one to the next, and the shape of the tunnel will be whatever that first like outline was, and then it will transition into the other outline along the way. It'll somehow morph it into the other shape. In this case, since both shapes are identical, it will just look like an extrusion. But the loft command is more powerful than just a standard extrusion, because it's not just straight out. It will morph the profile and create new shapes in between. And you'll see that in a second once we start going farther down the order. So, but by default, it works exactly the same whether it's a simple shape or a weird shape. And it's really nice to be able to use Loft. So SketchUp has a little bit of the Loft capabilities, but it's nowhere near as powerful as Rhino's. Unless you start getting like, there's tons of plugins for like all software, but then you could do the same thing with Rhino. So see, once you type in Loft, it'll say select curves to Loft. So you need curves, and you need at least 2. And then you hit enter, and it's going to say drag the seam. So for now, our seam is there, so that looks okay. And it's telling you it's going to run these guys like that. So you can just hit enter again at this point. And now you check the result of the loft. And so for now, it looks pretty good. If what you see in this little preview is okay, you just hit enter. You don't have to do anything to it. If something was wrong, you can try changing the way it's calculating the geometry using one of these presets, or adding more sort of like controls. If it looks good, just hit enter and don't worry about it. And then now it's open, so then we can type cap, and then you hit enter, and that closes it right up. So that guy's that guy. This one is pretty cool. So instead of lofting this shape up, we can tell Rhino to use this little line and then run it along that path and give us that same shape. And then we can cap that off because we'd have it. So to do that, you use what's called a sweep. So a sweep, if you're familiar with sweeps in Revit, they work similarly, where you take a shape and then you drag it along a path, and then that's going to create, think of it like those long exposures where people take those like sparklers and then they move like a line and they spell out their name in fire. So that's like the way a sweep works. You're going to drag this thing along, and as it moves, it's going to start creating a surface there. In this case, it's just going to look like this box we've kept making because we're using a square shape to drag that line around. So make sure you're using sweep 1, and then it'll ask you to select the rail. And then once you've done that, oops, I did the wrong one. So you hit enter, and it asks you for the rail. The rail is the ground, and it makes a difference which side you click, because depending what side you click, if you click this side of the profile or that side of the profile, is which direction it will pull it. So I'm going to click to the right for now. With sweep 1, it's not that important, and now notice I don't have to hit enter. It just says select the cross section now, and once you've hit that, you hit enter, and see it's created this. So if that looks good, like I said before, say okay. If you use the road-like one, it will try and keep it flat, because like roads are typically flat. Sometimes you'll see like the shape starts like turning all of a sudden, and it gets like a ribbon, and it flips upside down. If it was a road, like it's like Hot Wheels road, where it just like turns all the way over. So for now it looks good. We can hit OK. Oh, I forgot to plug this back in. There we go. So we can cap it now, and then you're done. So that guy's good. If we come over here, we can use Loft to start doing the same thing we did before when we were extruding. So Loft is way faster sometimes, because we can do this. We can type in Loft, and then you can select the curves to Loft. We can grab them and hit enter, and then you can repeat the command. Grab that one, grab this one, and hit enter, and then that one, and Let's grab that curve. Oops, see what happened there? I clicked on that side, and then on this one I clicked on this side. So what happens is it will assign a value, let's say like number 1, number 2 to the endpoints, and whichever one you click closest to, it'll give it number 1. And then when you loft, it's going to connect 1 to 1 and 2 to 2. So if you flip them, it's going to try and connect them inverted like that. So if you loft and you get this weird situation, that's usually what it means. So if you repeat the loft and you make sure to click them both on the same side, you won't have that issue. So if you didn't see it, what happened is this. I clicked this one on that side and that one on that side, and now it'll give you that error every time. So you can like tell it to flip one or there's a bunch of ways around it, but that's usually the easiest way you can avoid that, is to be really careful where you click and make sure that you've got them all in there. And we're going to grab that guy and here. Oops, I hit enter too early. And you can do this. Let's see if it'll let me do it. No, it won't work, because that will be too many. So we can grab that one, enter, enter. And then this one, and this one, enter. So the last one I want to do is 2P lines. I want to convert this into, from like just a shape into a surface. So we have the line to start with, and then you can use this other command, this one, a surface from Planar Curves. So what's cool with that is it looks like a donut or like a fried egg or like a sombrero, depending on like what you see when you look at it. But if you have a nice closed shape like that and it's flat, you just click on it and it makes it into a surface. That's all you need to do. So if we click that guy, it lives here, or you could type in surface from Planar Surface, something like that. You click there and you hit enter, and see, it just makes a surface and it bounds it by that shape. It has to be nice and flat or else it doesn't work. And then we can do that here. If you were to draw a rectangle here, I think I grabbed the wrong one there. Oh no, yeah, I did. Oops. Vertical. So I have this one now, and then you use your little fried egg on it. And if you have it selected, it will just draw it right away. So here I'm going to make this one vertical. Click there, click here. And then, so see there, the trick was you pick it, and then you click your little sombrero, and it draws it in. So that one's really good. And then now, so that's really like the first part. So all of those up to now, you'll be like, okay, yeah, we could have done all that in SketchUp or any other software, and it wouldn't have been that hard, because it's just a straight box. But you saw we just did it like 40 different, or not 40, I don't know how many it says, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,